Daily is Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Interesting. We have conflicting Justin Jefferson reports. Is that a fair character? I read these reports and think, oh, these are two highly placed NFL reporters that are bringing a different tone to the reporting of the situation.
And I think the second one is not just conflicting to the first one, but a rebuttal from someone's camp. Don't you?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think it's a rebuttal.
Okay. It is funny when that happens, where like one side clear. And by the way, and we'll get to these, but the first one is like it says it's intel from one side, and then like a day later, someone else comes out with different intel, clearly from a different side.
And I think this was hours after. I think this all came out yesterday within hours. So it was definitely both were well-placed like plants, but very different, like you said.
Reveal your sources.
Yeah, come on, Zolgad. Who are your sources?
So, okay, we'll get to that. I have another sort of big picture Justin Jefferson question to throw at you guys. We'll get back to Random Viking of the Week on this Thursday. But our friends at Ugly Deck are helping you create better decks for deck season.
Baby. Yep. And of course, summer is coming. So as Phil just said, deck season is just about here. And that means, you know what? Let's say you got a deck right now. Let's say it's an old one. Let's say it's not in great shape. Well, you can have a deck that looks like the one that you are watching right now from uglydeck.com, and you can install or DIY. Uglydeck.com offering up to $1,000. That's right, off for a limited time. With install, you're going to get the best carpenters. That's the sports dad route because he can't do a thing. He can't build stuff. So he's going to go install. But for you DIYers, you get the best coaches to help you from start to finish. So you know the product that you help with and work on is going to be fantastic. Ugly Deck is on a very simple mission, and that is to rid the world. It's to rid the metro. It's to rid the state of Minnesota of all of those aging old ugly decks. They're setting up appointments right now at their Shakopee Deck Design showroom. Check them out, uglydeck.com. Uglydeck.com. It's going to give you a beautiful place to sit and enjoy a cocktail and be very proud of your deck.
Love me a good
cocktail on the deck.
Dirty.
Deck on the deck. I love me a deck.
On a Friday, is there anything better?
It's deck season. Do you have a deck at your place in the Burbs decks?
I don't have a deck, no, unfortunately. I do have, I have a couple like walkout patio slabs of concrete that I do work out on.
So you have a patio.
Yeah, like a patio little slab on the front and the back that I do. But I would love a deck. I would love to I grew up with an awesome deck in my parents' house. So like overlooked like my backyard. Love a good deck. Deck on the deck. Yes, big fan.
Sometimes a lot of the sports takes come more naturally when you're just hanging out on a deck.
Oh, are you kidding?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Two drinks in, just a brilliance hits you like a bolt of lightning on a gorgeous day.
So, okay, let's get into these reports here without further ado. The first one is Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, and it's from an appearance on KFXN radio. That is 100.3 on your radio dial, if you still use a radio dial. And his intel from wide receiver Justin Jefferson's perspective is that the Vikings are playing games with JJ regarding the extension. Here's the quote from KFXN radio. If you want him, you pay him. If you don't, you trade him. You don't do this half measure, we're going to play games with him. And my intel is, from Jefferson's perspective, there may be a perception that they're playing games with him. And that doesn't end well. F around and find out is the mantra that they need to keep in mind. The Vikings need to keep in mind if they are indeed effing around with JJ. So we don't know exactly who from JJ's camp is floating this. Maybe the agent. Well, Florio's been known to talk to the wives of former Vikings players off the record and then take that information to his radio appearances. But before we get to the Schefter side of the reporting, it is interesting that someone or people from Jefferson's camp are telling Mike Florio, we feel like the Vikings are not serious about these negotiations, basically. And we feel like they might be effing around and finding out.
So I'd like to know more, though. Like, what's their perception? Are the Vikings, because if you are to just believe the Vikings at all, right? And what Quasi said, he's made it very clear that this is a huge priority, that he's their bell cow, that he's the central figure. So I guess what I would like to know is if indeed, and I'm sure it did, this came directly from the Jefferson camp, what is their definition of effing around? Because the Vikings certainly sound like they are trying to at least engage in a very serious, financially lucrative way. So I find this interesting, but I will say, as we've talked about before, it does feel weird that Doogie has told us countless times this almost got done a year ago in September before opening day, and it's still not done.
So let's go to the Schefter side of the reporting. So Florio comes out, says what he says, and then people start talking in the NFL, and Schefter gets wind of another part of this, talking to his sources. My sources tell me.
And I think they're rivals now, too. I think the last thing I saw, they are, well, I guess at one time they had a decent relationship, Schefter and Florio. And Florio, I think, recently went on the record and said it's basically fallen apart.
Adversarial. Well, Florio gets really annoyed when ESPN doesn't cite other, like if Florio breaks something and then ESPN comes out and says, like, ESPN sources say, like, apparently ESPN doesn't give credit a lot to some of the other reporters. I think that bothers Florio. So Schefter said, when this deal gets done, and I think it will eventually get done, it is expected to make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So it will be a landmark type of a deal. And I think some of the other wide receivers are waiting to see where the Justin Jefferson deal comes in before they do a deal, because they know the size and scope of this deal that the two sides have been working on throughout the course of the offseason. So Schefter's saying there's really nothing to worry about here. I think the deal will eventually get done, and it is expected to make Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So he's calming people down.
Yeah, so he's talking to the Vikings. Florio's talking to someone. It doesn't, I mean, it could be someone. To be clear, it doesn't have to be in Mike's case, I think if he talked to a person in the Jefferson camp, he would probably roll with that report. So, like, we don't know, is it the agent directly? Is it, an assistant to the agent? Is it, and we don't know that for sure. But I find this dragging on to be really intriguing, because we keep hearing, and I mean, Dukes has said the exact same thing basically as Schefter reported, right? Like, it's going to get done. The way the Vikings talk and Quasi talks is it's going to get done. It's very complex. To go back to the Florio report, I think back in March, his report was that the sticking point was guarantees in the contract, which does make some sense. But in one hand, we're being told to, stay calm, remain calm. There's no problem here. We're not at the worst DEF CON. But then you get these occasional brush fires. And I feel like the reality is this. Somewhere in the middle is the truth, like, of what's occurring right now. But interestingly, for the most part, in a day and age when stuff leaks out left and right, I feel like we don't have that part of it.
Yeah, it is. I think my gut says I think it's going to get done as well. Now, the question becomes if it's still lingering out there, let's say, because there is a limit here, obviously, like, okay, my guess is both sides agree, yep, you're going to be the highest paid non-quarterback, which is like $35 million a year. Okay. And that's going to be whatever, 12 or 13, like 13% of the salary cap. We can do the math on that. And we all agree on that. The question is probably, to Judd's point, is it is Jefferson's camp looking for fully guaranteed or 4 years guaranteed? And the Vikings are saying, well, we'll do 3 years guaranteed. There is a limit there somewhere. But let's say they just they can't agree on the guarantees, and now it's training camp, and he's not reporting to training camp, and maybe I'm just going down the path of let's prepare for the worst case scenario here. At what point, if pen doesn't hit paper, do you start talking to other teams about 2 first-round picks, or do you carry this through and you stare him down all the way through the season? And you hold the franchise tag threat over his head. I mean, how much chicken and poker do you want to play with Justin Jefferson?
The interesting thing is this. I think so let's go back to the Florio report in March. And if that is true, if basically the Jefferson camp is saying we want fully guaranteed contract for 3 years, which, by the way, when it comes to position players that aren't quarterbacks, is unprecedented in this league. And the Vikings are balking and saying no. If that's going to be their stance, I think you got to pick up the phone and start to discuss and also find out the team he would need to know that the team he's being traded to would also fully guarantee that contract. Now, if everyone else said no way too, and I got a theory about this, reckless speculation Thursday coming to life here.
I'll give you the umbrella here.
Thank you. But if everyone else said no way too, then he's going to have to accept something. Now, here's my reckless speculation. All right. So the Florio report said that the Vikings ownership group has a policy that the only players they will guarantee contracts to are quarterbacks, like they did with Cousins. So very rarely, but they will do that. If you guys recall, in 2018, that Cousins contract was the first fully guaranteed contract in the history of the entire league. Mm-hmm. My guess is, and it didn't get reported, but I think it's safe to say, my guess is the Vikings got some big time pushback from the league and from teams saying, what are you doing? Like, first of all, it's Kirk Cousins. Nice player, but you just set a precedent with a guy who's a nice player, not a great player. And second of all, this precedent is what we have been trying, we have worked years to stay away from this. Years. So I wonder if the Vikings also are prone here to some peer pressure of, okay, you did that in 18, and now you're going to come back and do this, and we don't care who the player is. You're going to fully guarantee a wide receiver's contract. Are you bleeping crazy? Because something else is at work here that we don't know. There is something going on here, and I think we have some of the breadcrumbs on the trail, you guys. But there are key pieces here that we don't know. Otherwise, there is no reason on earth why this deal's not done.
Am I the only one that would have no problem guaranteeing him fully guaranteed 3 years? He's 24. And I know he's coming off a season in which he was out for 7 weeks or whatever, and so right. But it's football. I mean, injuries are possible. He turns 25 years old in 3 weeks, so he'll be right. He'll still be in his prime as a wide receiver by the end of the 3. If he was 28, probably not going to give you 3 fully guaranteed years. But right. He's to be 25 years old. I would now if we're talking 5 fully guaranteed years, okay, give me 2 first-round picks if that's where you're gonna. Hold this thing up.
I don't personally have a problem with that, but I think the league does. That's my point. Nobody, one has ever, no position outside of quarterback, as far as I know, has ever received a 3-year fully guaranteed contracts. Now they receive a lot of guaranteed cash, signing bonuses, right? But there is just, I'm convinced there's something else at work here that we don't see or don't know yet.
So also the agent that represents JJ, Brian, is it Irault? I forgot. I do not know how to pronounce this guy's last name. Ayrault. I'm not gonna pronounce this one anymore.
Not gonna play for the Vikings anymore. Guarantee the contract.
So he represented Joe Burrow. Burrow got that huge contract extension right before the season started last year.
Yeah.
He represented Joey Bosa, the Chargers. Joey Bosa. He got paid kind of in the middle of training camp. So that deal also took a while, but it was also a humongous deal. He orchestrated a big deal for Ryan Tannehill when he signed that monster contract with the Titans. Now, Tannehill signed that in the middle of tampering and free agency. So that was a March contract extension. That didn't play out in the training camp.
Okay.
But recently, he has negotiated humongous deals for premier players typically later into the summer, honestly bleeding in to the start of the year.
So not on May 25th.
Yeah.
Right.
So like the way I really look at this is, unless we're getting down to really like week 1 and there's no deal done, like literally the start time, the kickoff of the new kickoff rule in week 1 of the NFL season in New York, I'm not really going to panic. I'm not in a full panic mode. I'm not listening to trade offers. I'm going to give Kwesi, the agent, JJ's camp, everyone involved, the benefit of the doubt that this deal gets done. Now, the structure of the deal, I think I lean towards Phil's. I would rather do 3 fully guaranteed or something like that than giving him 5-6 years of massive more dollars. I'd rather pay this dude a lot of money for ages 25, 6, 7, and then figure out the next contract if you want to do that. But I do think this deal gets done. It's probably just going to be later summer or even early fall.
So there's a couple other sort of big philosophical questions, if that's the type of contract that we're talking about, that we should ask, and I will ask them to you guys in a second here, after we shout out our friends over at Aquacide. It is lake season. Make sure that your lakes look as crystal clear as the water you're about to see on this YouTube edition of the podcast.
Yeah, this is at Shell Lake, Wisconsin. This is the in-laws cabin where I like to go up. I know Vinny Boy actually is on his way to the cabin here in a couple hours. He gets to go up before I even do. I'm not going up this weekend at all. I got the twins in town, so I'm staying back here on the home front. He's going to be jumping in and out of that lake, and when Vinny Boy jumps into that lake, that's an Aquacide lake. None of that lake algae getting stuck in the paws. You don't want to have to worry about that with your pup, right? Or even your own feet. You don't want to step into that. So if you've been neglecting to taking care of that lake, go check out our friends at Aquacide. The Aquacide pellets are a safe product registered with the EPA and DNR. Shipping also free on their website. You can go to aquacide.com to learn more.
Speaking of free shipping, our friends at Dennis Kirk offer free shipping on all orders over $89 for riding season here. Motorcycle riders, ATV riders, UTV riders, dirt bikes, whatever it is that you ride, go to denniskirk.com to check out over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories, all the top brands. Also, they have a ride finder tool where you can enter your make, model, and year and find parts that will exactly fit, or at least closely fit, in an instant. Parts for over 20 different makes of motorcycles as well, not just Harley Davidson. There's other brands out there. So check them out. If you like to ride, go to denniskirk.com. So a couple questions on this JJ discussion here that we can dive into and maybe look at recent NFL history. A lot of people have asked the show here, like Feedback Friday questions. Can you guys at some point go and do a study of Super Bowl winning teams and who their highest paid wide receiver was and how much money he was making relative to the top receivers in the league? Like, basically, can you win a Super Bowl, or do teams win Super Bowls paying wide receivers at the top of the market? And our friends at Spotrac.com, they track in-depth salary cap history going back to 2011. They've got some stuff that goes back further, but in terms of like percentage of cap for each wide receiver, the data goes back to 2011 in bulk.
Which I think is the beginning of the new CBA, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Because 2010 was uncapped, or 2000, one of those, like, I think 10 was uncapped.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yep. So here's my main takeaway looking at the last 13 years of Super Bowl winning teams. Only 2 of them had highly paid wide receivers. So like the highest paid receivers most years are getting between like 10 and 14% of the salary cap. Mm-hmm. And if you go through, so keep that in mind, 10 to 14% is like top of the market wide receiver in any given year. Well, the Chiefs the last 2 years, Marquez Valdes-Scantling has been their highest paid wide receiver relative to the cap the last 2 years. 5% of the cap last year, 2% of the cap the year before that. The Rams, Cooper Kupp, before he signed the contract, was 3% of their team salary cap. The Buccaneers, Mike Evans, 4%. The Chiefs' first Super Bowl in 2019 during this run, Sammy Watkins was, I think, at the top of the market at 10. He was the highest paid relative to the cap at 10% of the team salary cap.
Yep.
Julian Edelman, 2%. Alshon Jeffrey, Eagles, 6%. Chris Hogan with the Patriots in 2016 was 4% of the cap. Broncos in 2015 with Peyton Manning hanging by a ligament thread had Demaryius Thomas 9%, right near the top of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Amendola, Patriots, 4%. Percy Harvin, Seahawks, 4%. Anquan Bolden, Ravens, 2012 at 6%. And then the 2011 Giants had no highly paid receivers. Hakeem Nicks only making 1% of. Now, does this mean that there aren't outliers at some point in the future? No, I mean, of course, there's going to be. I mean, we now have seen a trend of quarterbacks making more than 13% of the team. That was kind of the magic number for a long time. Then Patrick Mahomes comes along. Here's another way to look at it. The highest cap hit by wide receiver. So who was the highest paid wide receiver in every year going back to 2011? And how far did their team go? My main takeaway going back to 2011 is in the last 13 seasons, only 3 times has the highest paid wide receiver in that season won a playoff game. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So last year, Amari Cooper was highest cap number wide receiver with the Browns. They won 11 games with 4 different quarterbacks. No playoff wins. They got smoked by the Texans in the first round. Kenny Golladay with the Giants was at the top of the market 2 years ago. We all know how those playoffs turned out. They beat the Vikings inside US Bank Stadium. They had 9 wins in the regular season. Then they got beat in the second.
I didn't realize he was the top of the market.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy contract. Not exactly worth the money.
Nuts right there.
Amari Cooper again with the Cowboys in 2021. That team won 12 games in the regular season, bounced on wild card weekend. Julio Jones, Falcons, they won 4 games in 2020. Sammy Watkins, the aforementioned, Chiefs won the Super Bowl with him in 2019. Mike Evans, Buccaneers, 2018, 5 wins, no playoff wins. DeAndre Hopkins, Texans, 4 wins, no playoff wins, obviously. Julio Jones got to the Super Bowl in 2016 with the Falcons, paying him at the top of the market. And then it's like Calvin Johnson, Mike Wallace, Andre Johnson, Vincent Jackson, Larry Fitzgerald. None of those guys made the playoffs the year that they were the highest cap number for a wide receiver. Now, you could make a case that this version of Justin Jefferson is better than almost every guy that I just listed. Maybe like 2016 Julio Jones, 2015 Calvin Johnson. Like that's the caliber of receiver that we're talking about.
Well, and Calvin Johnson, it's not his fault that the team around him was so often incompetent.
Yep. Yeah, this infrastructure is better and they can absorb the contract. And by the way, this is the other nuance here. When Jefferson signs the contract, he's not going to be the highest cap hit wide receiver for like 3 more years because they'll have a big signing bonus that they prorate throughout. They're going to kind of backload the cap hits.
Right.
So you won't really have to worry about him being the highest cap hit for like probably 3 more years.
And the nice thing too is if this gets done, when you're doing the accounting for the cap, first of all, the Vikings are going to have a massive break on quarterback as far as the cap hit goes for an extended period now.
Yep.
And the other thing is the Vikings are going to go from, I believe, carrying the most dead money on their cap at 2024 to it being, a paltry portion of that in 25. Yeah. So I think this is more about making your decision about, is Justin Jefferson good enough to justify this contract? Past history is interesting, but I'm with you, Phil. I think when you go through the list that you just went through, and then you talk about Jefferson, I think Jefferson, there's a few names there that are really, really good or were. I think Jefferson's in a different stratosphere, though, than a lot of those names. And I do think that the Vikings, because of their current situation and what it's going to be for the next couple of years, have the luxury of writing this check without oh my God, we've also got Kirk Cousins, like we can't have anyone else. All the nice toys are gone. It's 2 guys.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel I get the point, and I ordinarily agree completely on don't max your cap or stretch it if you don't have to. But I really feel the Vikings right now are in a position to do this. And Justin Jefferson to me is such an important part of this franchise and what this team does on and off the field, in the locker room as well, that, and to his credit for his position, now knock on wood, because we once had a conversation about how Stephon Diggs was a normal guy, and that certainly changed. But for now, Justin Jefferson has been, as far as I can tell, a good soldier. He has not been a malcontent. He has not been a complainer. So there's a lot of reasons why I think this investment actually does make sense.
And I know the argument is, top paid wide receivers relative to the cap. But like you look at the other teams that have gotten to Super Bowls recently, like the Eagles getting to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, having A.J. Brown, who's obviously a monster wide receiver for them. The Bengals obviously had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. That was awesome for them. The Rams countered that obviously with Cooper Kupp. Odell Beckham Jr. was on that team too. You've seen good teams have really good wide receivers that had to help them get there. So
Mike Evans in
Mike Evans with the, it's kind of funny. Like I was trying to look because a lot of the Super Bowls recently have been won by either Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes basically for the last 5-6 years. So I was trying to like really go back, but those teams, the teams that even getting to the Super Bowl, they have stud wide receivers, and JJ's probably above just about every one of those guys. So you need to pay him and you need him around. Like if you trade him, you're really setting yourself back. Like I really think you're just putting yourself in a very deep hole that this is a legitimate rebuild, which in the NFL, it's not like baseball where, the White Sox are going to be bad for the next 5 years. Like they're going to be horrible as they build things back up. That doesn't really exist in the NFL. Trading Justin Jefferson is a waving of the white flag that we're going to take a long time to get back to prominence.
And with Brady and Mahomes, and those guys have had some crazy wide receivers. And I mean, Mahomes still has Travis Kelce as a tight end, but he had Tyreek Hill early in his career. But does Patrick Mahomes develop as quickly as he does into the fullest version of Patrick Mahomes if he doesn't have Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill? I mean, it expedites the growth of young quarterbacks to just have those cheat code weapons to throw to. And then when they become their fullest version after 2 or 3 years, you got to make some harder decisions with the salary cap. You're the Chiefs and you're looking at your book saying, boy, if we can only keep one, it's probably Chris Jones and not Tyreek Hill, because now we have a kingmaker at quarterback who can turn Rashee Rice into our number one receiver. Tom Brady, okay. If we have to pay certain guys, it's probably not going to be wide receiver because Tom Brady can turn somebody else into a 1,000-yard receiver. Well, J.J. McCarthy is not going to be that version of himself for at least 2 or 3 more years, but the quickest way to get it out of him is to be throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson while you're a rookie or a second-year guy, right?
Yeah. And I can't believe that the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell in particular drafted McCarthy to anticipate trading Jefferson.
Yeah.
Like the reason why everyone wanted to come here, Drake May, McCarthy, go down that entire list, was not so Justin Jefferson could be a Dolphin or a Chief or something else, right? So like this is not part of the plan of, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll trade him. Jordan Addison has the potential certainly to be a number one at some point, but think about what a luxury it is to have him in an offensive league. But by the way, which, this league does everything they can to have high-flying offenses succeed. Think about the luxury of Jefferson, Addison, and then you have a third guy, that's fine too. But I mean, this receiving core right now is so good with those top 2 guys. And JJ McCarthy is not here to be like, hey, dude, we got some bad news for you. Justin just got traded.
Yep. So, I mean, I tend to lean, just to bring this episode full circle. You got Florio saying, hey, the Jefferson camp feels like the Vikings are going to F around, find out. Schefter coming in saying, it's going to get done, guys. I think I tend to lean toward what Schefter is saying, that it's going to get done sometime in the next 2 months.
The only thing I'll say that's weird, again, and I do think that there's a few important things we don't know. When Declan went through the list of the clients from Jefferson's agency who signed late, the only weird thing here is the fact that they were so close to an agreement before opening day last year. Like, that's not the norm. Ordinarily, you're haggling up to the end, but you were never really close.
Yeah, but does that even? I think once the cap goes up by $30 million, aren't you like?
No, I'm saying again, I don't think it's the salary. I think it's something about the guarantees. I think there's an unknown factor here, which is why I am recklessly speculating and insinuating that it might be pressure about the amount of, if you're going to say we will guarantee you a contract, I could see the league saying, hold on a second, you did that with Cousins and now you're going to do that. So like, there's just something, it feels like there's something weird here. And if Kwesi is telling the truth, here's the thing too. If he, and I mean, my God, he gets to the podium every chance he gets and praises a guy he is supposedly negotiating against, right? That's where I'm wondering if it's all the Vikings or if it's an outside factor.
Yeah, I mean, Kwesi is clearly trying to, like, he doesn't want to put gas on the fire. He doesn't want to make it seem like it takes two. With Kirk, he was very comfortable for 2 years saying, well, it takes two sides. It takes two sides, right? Hey, this is what we want. He wants this over here. I mean, Kwesi has not pulled the it takes two sides to negotiate card at all with Justin Jefferson.
It's like he goes to press conferences with a wheelbarrow filled with cash and like puts it aside and
see,
does
here it is.
This is all yours, but it's like, okay, so if that's all his, why is it not? So that's where I'm saying this doesn't feel normal to me.
It is. No, there's some weird vibes. Okay, boys, it's time for a random Viking of the week here. And I have 2 straight victories for the first time in a long time. Looking to three-peat against Judd today with Declan giving out the clues. And this edition of Random Viking of the Week is presented by our friends at Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. These are some of the best people in the business at making sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. And Nicolay Law, very proud to serve the Twin Cities community, just your normal, everyday folks that happen to have law degrees to help you during a tough time. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers at Nicolay Law. That's nicolaylaw.com or 1-855-NICOLAY. So here's how this works. Declan's going to throw out a series of clues. Judd and I can shout out answers whenever we think we know something. If one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. Random Viking of the Week goes back, almost 3 years now.
Yeah. Oh.
Judd with 70 victories all time. Declan with 34. I have 22. In the new era where we all compete against each other equally, Judd has 19 wins. I have 14. Declan has 8. The last handful of Random Vikings are Irv Smith Jr., Kirk Cousins, Troy Williamson, Charles Johnson, and Brian Robinson. So here we go.
You're up.
No Googling, but we can control F for the previous list.
I gotta make sure I got that. I gotta make sure I got that list up here. Go ahead, Dex.
This is one of my greatest hits album because every time we start this game and before we start, you always say, "Hold on, I need to pull up the list."
I gotta get the list called up.
Yeah, I mean, you know that the episode is going to lead into Random Viking of the Week.
Yeah, but I got a bunch of notes
prepared
elsewhere, and I just got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Sports Dad's
busy guy.
Sports Dad's a busy guy. All right, go ahead.
All right, first clue. This Random Viking of the Week was named the All-Rookie Team in the NFL. There was a All-Rookie Team. I don't know if they still do this. Maybe that's a clue too. Well, I don't know if they still do this, but according to Pro Football Reference, he made the All-Rookie Team his rookie year. He didn't win Rookie of the Year, but he received votes for Rookie of the Year from the Associated Press.
I'm going to control F. Okay. Can I guess?
Sure.
Is it Blair Walsh?
Blair Walsh. No. Buzzer. Not Blair Walsh. The damn Zeta. Zeta freaked out at me.
Oh, it's Zeta's fault.
Zeta's fault.
Oh,
Zeta's fault.
Zeta's
fault.
Oh, we're
LOL.
blaming the system. We can't take responsibility for that, huh?
Way to go.
Nope.
Way to go, Steve Harvey.
Sometimes you click the thing and it doesn't go, and then you move the mouse, then things fire. Like it's been doing that on intros for me last week too. So that's pretty funny that happened, though. I'll be completely honest.
Man,
I do appreciate the guess because I do have a tendency to use Random Vikings in passing that we've mentioned throughout the week.
Yes, you do. It's a big time Declan tell.
That's a good tell. That's a good tell from the poker player, and I just completely did a fake out there. That was pretty funny. Anywho,
I need to collect myself now.
I'm sorry. That would have been great. And Judd even might have to collect himself.
I mean, wow.
That was awesome.
Wow. That's an all-time moment right there. I feel like that is going to hit X at some point today.
I'll be in our comments. I'll get.
Speaking of poker, this happens on online poker where you like misclick. You intend to like min raise, but you slide the slider and you go all in on accident, and you're like, oh my god, no, please don't call, I didn't mean to go all in.
What was that voice?
Fancy bear. Yeah. Okay, back to Random Viking. We'll go here. We'll go back to the clues. Okay. This Random Viking of the week was a first-team All-American in college. This Random Viking of the week, after retirement, coached in NFL Europe and the UFL. Not the current day UFL, obviously, but NFL Europe and UFL.
I need to do more. Control F. I need Control F in my life.
Coached NFL Europe.
No, it can't be him.
I went back and I did a little Twitter search. That's always part of my fun clues with you guys.
NFL Europe.
You guys have never once, either of you, mentioned this Random Vikings of the week's name in a tweet.
I think I know why.
I will say people have replied to you with this guy's name, but you two, from your direct handles, have never used his name in a tweet.
Yeah.
His full name, at least.
Yep. So just to be clear, he coached in the UFL that Dennis Green was in, that Culpepper played in back in the day. I believe it was the Sacramento Lion Kings.
Was it the Lion Kings?
He didn't coach the
Mountain Lions?
The Lion Kings. I'll tell you this: if this is a clue, you let me know. But he was the coach for the Las Vegas Locomotives from 2009 to 2012 in the UFL. This Random Viking of the week
can't be.
Secured 22 touchdowns in the regular season of his NFL career.
In the what?
Regular season.
22 touchdowns in the regular season of his NFL career.
I missed that.
The regular what?
This thing cut out or something. It's all.
No, it cut out for me too. I think.
Oh, did it?
Declan's studio internet was glitching there.
Yeah, I blame Zeta.
Yeah, it's a click. It's a click thing. You click thing and it. Yeah,
Zeta, folks, it's not reliable right now.
So Random Viking of the week is a Super Bowl winner. Not with the Vikings.
Thanks, Dax. 22 touchdowns.
It's funny because like guys who score touchdowns don't often coach. I feel like head coach. Like how many former just quick side street here. How many former running backs are head coaches in the NFL? Wide receivers. Not that he was an NFL head coach, but this is kind of funny.
After leaving the Vikings, this Random Viking of the week technically led the NFL in yards per touch. I will say he only appeared in 14 games, 2 of them starts. But according to the NFL, Pro Football Reference, bold meaning leading the NFL, he led the NFL in yards per touch, which is weird because it's lower than his other years. It says bold, 7.8. Yeah, he led the league in yards per touch, 7.8. In a historic year of offense in the NFL that year, too.
In 08, you said?
In 98.
In 98. Oh.
Here's a clue, though.
Okay.
I'll stop you guys. It didn't come with the Vikings in 98.
Okay. That's what I was... No, that wouldn't be...
It's kind of a cop-out because, he had 108 touches that year. So, which is a decent amount, but he still technically led the league in yards per touch.
So he was all-rookie team, votes for Rookie of the Year.
Okay, control Fing.
Okay, hold on.
He won a Super Bowl. When he won the Super Bowl, he was mostly a passenger. Like he had one touch in the playoff run that resulted in the Super Bowl win for this team.
Oh, wow.
He's just riding coattails.
Wow.
I will say, and this maybe you guys might jump on this here. This Random Viking of the Week had a pretty epic playoff game performance with the Vikings. It was a loss. It was a playoff loss.
Oh. Glad I didn't guess that one then. Epic.
Pretty big day. Pretty large day. Especially for that time of year.
God, this is a bad guess, but Judd's not taking it. So, is it David Palmer?
David Palmer. Okay, I am over the correct sounder.
Palmer was a Viking in '98.
That's what I thought, but
I am.
This-
now I have one guess left.
This Random Viking of the Week played 3 years for the Vikings.
3 years for the Vikings. All right.
45 games with the Vikings, 6 starts. This guy was mostly a backup. He played in 116 NFL career games. Only 15 of them starts.
Whoa.
But still had a pretty decent career.
But
I mean,
had
22 touchdowns.
But had 22 touchdowns.
22 touchdowns, over 4,500 all-purpose yards in his NFL career.
I have another guess, but I mean it's God.
He was a little bit ahead of his time for his position.
Oh man, I mean it's I can see these teams. Denny Green probably coached against his former him and Denny Green probably did battles with each other in the UFL, right?
He played for Denny Green.
Yeah.
3 years.
They probably coached against each other.
Yeah.
Las Vegas versus
Yep.
Sacramento. The Mountain Lions, the Lion Kings, the Lion Cats, the
Mountain Lions. I think it was the Mountain Lions.
the Mountain Lions.
The Roars.
In that epic playoff game he had with the Vikings, he had 159 yards on 11 touches and 1 touchdown in a playoff game loss under Denny
I do have
Green and
one
the
more
Vikings.
guess, but it's like it will end the game if I'm wrong. And Judd appears like he's
Judd's
not going to
stumped.
guess.
You want to go for it? Want to show out the total?
Is it Amp Lee?
Amp Lee. I'm over the correct sounder.
Oh, let's go!
Amp Lee.
Oh my God.
Justice!
Amp Lee.
Justice!
Amp Lee. You guys guessed him like 3 or 4 weeks ago on a clue, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna write that one down.
Amp Lee, let's go.
Amp Lee. Nice.
Amp Lee. Yeah, he went to the Rams, and before they became the greatest show on turf, he was even, I forgot to give you this clue. He was team MVP for the Rams in 97. So like before the greatest show on turf really took things over with Falk and Warner and whatnot, after leaving the Vikings, and he was on the Super Bowl team. He also, God, I kind of left a good clues on the board here. He caught Joe Montana's final touchdown pass.
So I do remember him being on the Rams, and I remember him like when the Rams beat the Vikings in those playoffs. I do remember him being like part of their team, and 1999, right? So yeah, Amp Lee, man, he just kind of a jack of all trades, catching passes, kind of a West Coast style.
Yeah.
He caught 71 passes in 1995.
Yeah. Wow. Almost the exact same amount of rushing attempts and receptions in his NFL career. They're damn near identical.
He had good hands.
How about that? Lee, man.
Yeah.
What a
San
full
Francisco
circle.
49ers. Yeah, because the 40, that's funny. The 49ers drafted him for that West Coast pass catching, Joe Montana, Steve Young, and he didn't really see the field a ton, I guess. But congratulations to me, everybody. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
After
Very nice.
my hilarious.
Very nice.
Justice was served. 3 straight wins in Random Viking of the week. All right, Judd's Clues are next week, and we'll have a random twin of the week on the Score North Twin Show that will include some reckless speculation as well, and flagrant howls pretty much daily these days with this Timberwolves playoff run, down 1-0 after that loss to the Mavericks. So if you're a Timberwolves fan, flagrant howls on the Score North YouTube channel is where you can find those episodes. Hey, we just want the Vikings to win a dang Super Bowl before we die around here.